Welcome to Epic Reads Unfolded. Dive into the world of books as we break down captivating reads into bite-sized summaries. Today we're diving into Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, a former FBI hostage negotiator. You sent in your copy.
Oh, wow.
And it looks like you've got some serious notes in the margins. You're clearly ready to up your negotiation game.
Yeah.
And to help us unpack Voss's unique approach, we've got expert speaker here, who's a whiz at navigating those tricky conversations. I've always found negotiating kind of stressful. Is it really possible to make it easier?
Oh, absolutely. Voss's approach is all about understanding the psychology behind negotiation.
Yeah.
And he offers some incredibly effective tools. What's fascinating here is that he actually challenges a lot of the conventional wisdom around negotiation, like those win-win scenarios you always hear about.
Yeah, those can feel kind of forced sometimes. Like you're both trying to pretend you're getting the best deal.
Exactly. Voss argues that traditional tactics often ignore the elephant in the room, emotions. We like to think we're rational, but our feelings play a huge role in how we make decisions.
Okay, so it's not just about logic and numbers.
Right.
It's about understanding the other person's emotional state.
Right. Voss talks about System 1 thinking, which is basically our gut instinct, the emotional, intuitive part of our brains. He says that tapping into that is key to reaching successful agreements.
So how do we actually do that? It feels a bit touchy-feely for a tough negotiation.
Okay. Well, one technique he talks about is the power of no.
Okay.
Now, I know this sounds counterintuitive, but hear me out.
I'm all ears, I have to admit. I really struggle with saying no. It feels confrontational, like I'm shutting down the conversation.
I get that. But Voss argues that no can actually be incredibly powerful. It allows your counterpart to feel in control, heard, and respected. It takes the pressure off and creates space for a more authentic conversation. Think of it this way. When someone feels forced into a yes, they're more likely to resent the outcome later. But when they get to say no, it's empowering. They feel like they have a choice.
That makes sense. So it's about giving them a sense of agency, not just trying to bulldoze them into agreeing with me.
Exactly. And this ties into another key concept, tactical empathy.
Oh, yeah. I saw that in the book. What exactly does tactical empathy look like in a real conversation?
It's about actively listening and acknowledging your counterpart's emotions.
Yeah.
So instead of just hearing their words, you're trying to understand the feelings behind them.
Okay.
Let's say someone is complaining about a delayed delivery. Instead of immediately jumping to a solution, you could try saying, "You sound really frustrated. Is that because you were hoping to have this by Friday?" By labeling their emotion, frustration in this case, you're showing them that you understand where they're coming from.
So it's about building rapport and trust.
Yeah.
Before trying to solve the problem.
Exactly. And to do that, Voss suggests techniques like mirroring and labeling. Mirroring is simply repeating the last few words of what someone said. This shows them you're truly listening and helps them feel heard. Labeling is acknowledging their emotion by name, like in that delivery example.
It's amazing how these seemingly simple techniques can completely shift the dynamic of a conversation.
Right. And Voss illustrates all of this with some incredible real-life stories. One that sticks with me is his very first hostage negotiation, where he was dealing with a bank robber named Bobby.
Oh, wow. So by understanding Bobby's fear, Voss was able to create a path for him to surrender safely.
Exactly. It wasn't about forcing a solution. It was about connecting on a human level.
Yeah.
And that's a principle that can apply to so many different situations.
You marked a section in the book about black swans. It sounds kind of mysterious. What are those?
Well, think of them as those unexpected pieces of information that can totally change the game. They're often hidden beneath the surface, and uncovering them can make or break a deal.
Okay, so how do we spot these black swans? Is it like reading body language or something?
It can be, but Voss suggests a really interesting technique. Asking calibrated questions. These are questions that start with how or what, and they're designed to get the other person talking and revealing more than they intended.
So instead of asking, "Are you happy with the terms?" you might ask, "What would need to happen for you to feel comfortable signing this?"
Exactly. By phrasing it that way, you're not putting them on the spot, but you're encouraging them to think more deeply and potentially reveal those hidden motivations.
That's brilliant. And it's not just about what they say, it's about what they don't say, right?
Absolutely. You have to pay attention to their hesitations, their tone of voice. Those can be just as revealing as their words. It's almost like being a detective, piecing together the clues.
I love that analogy. It makes negotiation feel less like a battle
Yeah.
and more like a puzzle to be solved.
Exactly. And speaking of puzzles, there's another story in the book that I thought you might find interesting. It's about how Voss helped a student negotiate a better job offer.
Oh, yeah. I remember that one. I think I underlined that whole section. It wasn't about asking for a higher salary. It was
Yeah.
something else entirely, right?
Right. The student was focused on non-salary terms, things like vacation time and professional development opportunities. And he used a technique that Voss calls pleasant persistence.
Okay, so pleasant persistence. That sounds like being assertive but not aggressive.
It's about being persistent in your requests without becoming demanding or confrontational. It's about finding creative solutions that work for both sides.
So it's like you're not taking no for an answer, but you're also not being a jerk about it.
Exactly. And that brings us to one of the most important takeaways from this book. These techniques aren't just for hostage situations or high-stakes business deals. They can be applied to our everyday lives.
Really? I'm intrigued. Give me an example. I mean, I'm not exactly negotiating hostage releases on a regular basis.
Think about dealing with customer service. We've all been there, frustrated with a problem that seems impossible to solve. By using tactical empathy and calibrated questions, you can often turn a confrontational situation into a collaborative one.
So instead of getting angry and demanding a solution, I could try to understand where the customer service representative is coming from and work with them to find a resolution.
Right, it's about shifting the dynamic. And it's not just limited to customer service. These techniques can be applied to parenting, personal relationships, any situation where you need to communicate effectively and influence outcomes.
Wow, that's really eye-opening. It's like Voss is giving us a whole new language for navigating those tricky conversations we all face in life.
He is, and one of the key messages I took away is that it's not about manipulation. It's about genuine connection and understanding.
Right. It's about finding those mutually beneficial solutions, not just getting what you want at all costs.
Exactly. It's about building trust and rapport, which ultimately leads to more sustainable agreements.
This deep dive into Never Split the Difference has been fascinating. It's given me so much to think about and apply, not just in my work life, but even my personal life as well.
I agree. Voss's approach is thought-provoking and challenges us to rethink our assumptions about negotiation. It's about moving beyond those win-lose scenarios and finding creative solutions that work for everyone involved.
If you're looking for a new way to approach negotiation, whether it's in the boardroom or at the breakfast table, this book is definitely worth a read. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more literary adventures.